That's true.
But yeah.
All right, I'll get started. Welcome to Food for Thought, our weekly workshop online on Zoom at noon on Thursdays. I'm here with Peyten Williams, and who is with Boban Consulting, and I'm Becky McKnight, and we're happy to see you. Today, we're going to be talking about the morning rush and the bedtime routine. Should we get started with the slideshow?
Absolutely. Let me get my screen shared and we will get going. Um, awesome. Let's see. Can y'all see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I was so happy to see the names in the chat last week. I was so happy to see all the little tips. We talked about go-to strategies last week, and what are some strategies that you want to keep in place all year, and this is the time to put them back if they perhaps were not relevant during the summer. Some of the strategies were totally relevant. People wrote about praying with their children, lighting a candle at dinner, high-low buffalo, and rosebud and thorn kind of tools to help process the day. Little mantra, make someone smile today. So that was really fun for me to see what you are already doing. As I suspected, this is the crowd that is intentionally parenting. So today we're going to talk about routines, and one book I'm going to feature today is called Simplicity Parenting. This is a book that's 20 years old, but there's a lot of wisdom in it. It's very dense, and Kim Payne has some good tips. And then one of my go-tos you hear every week, habits of the household. So the first thing to say about morning and evening routine is this is where you infuse your family story. This is where the child wakes up to your family and your worldview and how the tone you want to set, the background music you want to set. What does it feel like to wake up in your home as part of your family? Can you describe that? Can you describe what you want that to feel like? And then the same thing with going to bed, that routine, that rhythm. Kim John Payne mentions that the developing rhythms in your life are super important for active on-the-go children who are in kind of high expectation settings like your children are, where they are going to one class after the next, and then another thing, and then something fantastic happens at school, and they're kind of darting back and forth. That the calm of your morning and the calm of your evening allow them to see the rhythm of each day, and it's kind of a grounding. It's a framework that they can grow on.
So Becky, what if my what if my morning routine and my evening routine are not grounded? What
All right,
do
which
I do?
it's very funny because she talks about with little ones under 7, it's super easy to put those rhythms into place or put them back into place. You lost that over the summer because you were going to bed at 9 and 10 and everything was different and vacations. The little ones feel that security, that everyone feels security from rhythms, even you do. But older than 7, this author says may take a month, but that I love the words that she says. She repeats them over and over. Start small, stay close, insist, and follow through. I think given that this is an old book, she wouldn't have used insist anymore. She would have said assure, assure that it happens. Same concept. Make sure you stay close when you are developing a rhythm so that you assure it happens. And then it happens for a month for a child over 7, and it should sink in. And those will allow your child to grow and flourish, feel safe and secure. And as you will see coming up in the next slide, process what's ahead in the day and what's after. As you know, this is one of my favorite authors, and I'm going to read to you a paragraph that I've read to you before. I read to myself and think about it quite often. This is about you. I love this quote here that I wrote so small I can barely see it. Habits of waking may be small and mostly unconscious, but they are never neutral. That's why they are so powerful. So this moment of the day when you wake up is very powerful, and it empowers you to set the tone for your child. When the first thing I do in the morning is roll over, grab my phone, and begin scanning work emails, I wake up to the monster of performance. The story of reality is about what I can get accomplished today and whether I can justify my existence. When I begin the morning in social media, I wake to the monsters of comparison and envy. The story of reality is about the pictures of other people's lives and whether I can measure up. When I begin the morning in the news headlines, the monsters of fear and anger nearly jump through the screen. The story of reality is how the world is falling apart and how mad I should be at the others who just don't get it. Or when I lie in bed recounting the day's to-do list, I wake to the monster of busyness. The story of reality is how there is always too much to do and never enough time to do it. I love that quote. I'll read it to you again, I'm sure, sometime. And I have been recently reaching for my cell phone when I wake up in the morning and looking at all those things, not just one of them. And I've said to myself, this is not the habit that I want.
There's a, I love what you just said about that, because, a lot of times as a parent, especially when things get busy, you feel like you are overwhelmed by all the stuff, right? It's like, I'm not choosing this. This is just how life is. But really, a lot of the power of this idea is that you can make very small choices that have really big ripple effects. One of my heroes, Andy Stanley, always talks about keystone habits, right? It's like things that you do that impact other things in a way that are really helpful. And, thinking about the way that you wake up and the way that you wake up your children is, absolutely about it's a keystone habit, right? Like, if you would, like me, hit snooze a million times and then you're in a hurry every morning, that is a choice, right? Even though I would like to pretend like it's not a choice.
If you'll go to the next slide, I'll tell you what I learned this summer. I was listening to Dr. Becky podcast this summer when I was walking on the beach. And she says, you are the queen or the king of the morning. If choosing to wake up before your child is not something, just another thing you have to do, another thing that's going to make you more tired, it's a luxury that gives you that moment of silence in your own home that you are the master of. And do you need prayer time? Do you need to exercise? Do you are a musical person? Is there something that kind of can fill your soul and make you more prepared to lead your family when they do wake up? I was just telling Peyten how I've gone swimming for, I think, 30 years in the morning. I was always a Monday, Wednesday, Friday person. And then my husband was Tuesday, Thursday for his exercise. When our children got older, somebody said they drove by him running and me coming back from swimming at the same time and wondered who was manning the fort. So we were caught, but by then our kids were teenagers and we felt a little more leeway. But that gave me time for prayer time on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I am still in the habit and did this morning wake up because it's the ultimate in luxury to me to have time before the busyness starts.
Well, and I think too, to, whether you're a person of faith or not, just to have the margin in your morning where you are the decider. It's not like other circumstances are deciding you, right? Where when I'm late or when my children didn't lay out their stuff the day before, right? When we don't do these little habits, suddenly those things are my master because I have to kind of bow to those, whether, but instead, if we can build in a little bit of margin in our mornings and our evenings, and that really does mean some boundary setting, right? As parents. And that's really hard, because sometimes it means we have to say no to, you know, something that's going to make it harder to get up in the morning, or that activity that's going to run late at night. But, um, you know, that trade-off is worth it if you can have that time for yourself to decide your attitude and decide how you're going to show up in the morning and how you're going to be there for your kids.
Yeah, even 10 minutes of stretching makes you the master of the morning if you're awake. I love the quietness, and I think if you're not already doing that, it's something worth discovering.
Yeah. Also, one tip that I'm seeing going around on social media a lot is to buy an old school alarm clock, because a lot of times we use, I mean, I know I do, I use my phone as my alarm clock, but then that's the first thing I touch, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm touching that, I'm picking it up to turn it off. You have to have a lot of willpower not to then open and scroll. Whereas, like, if you have an old school alarm clock, it's like hit it off, you can leave your phone plugged in, go do whatever you need to do, and then you just start your day on your own without the demands of other people creeping into your life.
Good tip. All right, just some things to remember about the morning. Have everything packed up the night before. We always talk about that, and pick your clothes out. That's something that I was told by Judy Marine, who was my first boss in the lower school at Westminster so many years ago. And that turned out to be way more impactful than I ever anticipated. Pick out those clothes. And I even read a tip about putting it on a hanger with a little bottom clip so it looks like an outfit to make it fun. Is picking out the clothes fun? Do you put a little hat on the top of the or a bow? Whatever it is, make it fun. Pick out those clothes, have the shoes and socks ready, and the backpack there. Peyten will tell you, I know, that having your child pack their own snack is that beginning of independence and executive function. And then please, please, please have something to eat. Give those kiddos something nourishing. And families of faith often gather around the table with some prayers, special words.
So, Becky, it's hilarious. In order to make this happen, we have 3 kids who are 11 and under, and I set up a check chart for our kids right when they get home from school, so that one of the things they have to do is, before you get to play or before you get to do anything, you've got to finish your check chart, right? Like, you walk in the door and the first thing is take off your shoes. And so, but then on that list is lay out your clothes for the next day, put your snack in your bag for tomorrow, choose what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow, because our kids fight with me about, I don't want to eat that for breakfast. So I make them make their own breakfast now, but I just have a list of like bagel, toast, blah, 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 and then eggs, yogurt, whatever. And I'm like, choose your protein, choose your carb, choose your veggie, but you choose and you make it happen. And just know what you're going to have for breakfast in the morning. And so those kind of things, right, where if you get them in the habit, it really does help make the morning run a little bit more smoothly. And even then, we're still tight in the morning, Becky.
Yeah. I told you Peyton would tell you something about packing your own snack. I may have shared this with you before, but my youngest son, who really learned by just watching what was happening in the house and tagged along. He developed his own system. He had a tiny little spiral notebook, and I didn't realize this till well into his habit. And he would list on it exactly what he had to take to school in the morning, whether it was his instrument, his PE clothes, whatever, and he would put it on the floor of his bedroom right by the door so that he developed his own system. I think that with younger children, by having that check chart, you are basically showing them what's going to happen the rest of their lives. And they can change that system. The system they can grow into a new system. But having a system in this day and age is essential. So you've already done the scaffolding for them.
Yeah. And I think too, there's, striving for that peace in the morning, right? Whether you're a person of faith or not, right? Having some sort of like peacefulness, whether it's like, I remember my kids telling me a while ago, they said, Mom, I feel like the first thing you say to me in the morning is what I need to do. And so I've really tried to be really intentional. And this is not even about faith, it's just about being a nice human, but about being like, hey, good morning, and giving them a hug, right? That like eye contact where I'm not on my phone. I'm not trying to like, all right, hey, I need you to, get your oatmeal in the microwave or whatever, but just that intentional moment of connection, smile, hi, I love you, good morning. Before I'm like, did you make your bed?
One of our moms from Food for Thought last year had an amazing breakthrough with the morning routine, where she told her daughter, if you want your hair done, you must be in my bathroom by 7. And that was after our Food for Thought morning routine session. And it worked for them because the daughter really wanted her hair done special each morning. And so they had the old-fashioned alarm. Her alarm went off. She got up and she came over to Mom's bedroom. Mom was already awake, had already gone through her special time, and was ready to do that hair. So I loved that when she came to report that they'd had a breakthrough.
Man, that's a good breakthrough.
All
Oh,
right,
it's ready to
next
go on a night.
slide. Yeah. Okay.
So
Before you move off this slide, I just want to say that these words by the Good Inside consultant, Dr. Becky, she says nighttime is all about routine, timing, and structure. And so take a minute right now and think, can you describe what that is at your house? Peyten, we know,
yeah.
undoubtedly has something very big that she can tell us about. But think about yours right now. I like the word rhythm so much from this Simplicity Parenting author. Rhythm sounds soft and lovely to me. So routine, timing, and structure could be replaced with the word rhythm. If you are into semantics and you want it to feel calming and special. All right, Peyten, what do you want to say?
No, I was just gonna say, you asked me what our afternoon routine is like, and right now, Becky, it is chaos because we are our nighttime routine. Because now we're finally in. I feel like every time we hit a new season of life, right? It's like, oh, suddenly we have a new activity that throws off the old rhythm, and we've got to figure out that new rhythm. And so I think for me, the piece of this is like, just remember to be patient. Like, yes, be intentional about setting that rhythm, but know that it takes a little while for you and your kids to figure out what does the rhythm need to be. If on Mondays we get home at 5, and on Tuesdays we get home at 4:15, and on Wednesdays we don't get home until 7, like, what does that routine look like? And that it can be kind of like a syncopated rhythm. It might be not like a just steady drum beat, right?
Well, and flexibility is really the key so that it doesn't feel like a straitjacket. And the child doesn't get the sense that no matter what happens, that you are going to be inflexible. So, and then of course, Fridays and Saturdays are going to be different. But on school nights, a rhythm, she writes, Kim John Payne writes, rhythm calms and secures children, grounding them in the earth of family so that they can branch out and grow. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, what's on our next slide?
Well, and as we're advancing, we know from brain development that like routine actually does help us like calm down that amygdala and frontal lobe because you're not scanning for danger. You're like, okay, I know what's coming, right? And so it does leave room for creativity and you're removing a lot of threat. And so, when we think about, okay, well, my kids, man, they're always just like so argumentative or whatever and at night. Well, maybe a little bit of routine where it's like, okay, I always know that at 8 o'clock, I'm going up to bed, right? And I know the first thing I'm going to do after I get upstairs is brush my teeth. And then I'm going to get in bed and my mom's going to come give me a kiss. And we have our little thing we say. That's a rhythm. That's a routine. Even if that's the only thing you can count on, that is a little bit of that safety that calms that amygdala down. And they're like, hey, I know what to expect.
Yeah. She mentioned that the constant kind of change is keeping your child in a heightened state at all times, which also contributes to the fact that we have a lot of kids who are having trouble sleeping. So this rhythm will help that. Children do stay up too late. And Dr. Becky recommends that, or says that basically data shows that most children school age are going to bed between 6:30 and 8. And that's elementary. That's not middle school. That's elementary children. And I would say from probably 3 on, between 6:30 and 8. And that's hard. It's hard to keep that. Is 8:30 fine with your family? Great. But do kind of critically analyze what time is my child getting to bed? How many hours is my child getting? Go ahead, Peyton. Oh, wait, go back to that last.
Sorry.
Go back. Cut off that screen time. I didn't cut off screen time the other night. I had the terrible time falling asleep. I did not pay attention to my own advice. They need really not to have any screen, I would suspect, if they're in elementary school. Middle school, they're going to be doing homework, probably even 5th grade. We mentioned the clothes in the backpack. Do maintain your authority. Dr. Becky is good about that. She says, you do your job. It's your job. And if your kids are pushing back, you say, it's my job to create this rhythm for our family so that we can be grounded and feel secure. That's my job. Right? And so you're even if you don't like it, it's the parent's job to set these boundaries. You'll hear more about that next week when we talk about boundaries.
Becky, thinking about homework, like especially as kids get a little bit older, right? There's that temptation as a parent where it's like, oh, well, my kid has to do their homework. I'm sorry, if you don't let your kids stay up. If I'm a teacher and my kid, okay, now here's the deal. If your kid doesn't do their homework because for 2 hours after school they're playing around and doing video games and then they have soccer practice and then they get home at 8 and have to start their homework, y'all need to redo your priorities. But their bedtime doesn't change no matter how much homework they have, right? And so I think if all of a sudden a kid is like, well, I have to stay up till 11 to get my reading done, y'all need to look at what's going on. Are you overcommitted? Is there other stuff? But like bed actually needs to be kind of a non-negotiable. And that's one thing as your kids get older, that's going to be really hard. But you got to teach them because sacrificing their sleep for whatever else they're working on, it's not worth it.
It's not, and those circadian rhythms are really something, right? So training your body, now is the time that I go to bed, is very effective and is setting them up for success when they get to college. And we all know what happens in college, but we also have many, many examples of children who were able to set their own boundaries, set their own time clocks, and they thrived because of it. And then the last slide is really, what's that special thing that you do? How are you closing out the night? I do have a couple of books on blessings, how you could bless your child, and I love those. I sang a blessing to my 3rd child. He came 4 years after the others, and for years I sang a blessing to him. But it might be a poem. There's a woman out there in the blogosphere who recommends all these fun, silly poems, a cute way, add a little fun, closeness. But just know that this is the time when, if there is an issue, it's quite possible that it's going to come up at this point when you are tucking your child in. I know, Rachel, you're here and you are no longer tucking, right? When in middle school, but the little one, go ahead, Rachel.
No tucking, but there
Mm.
is lots of yelling to go to bed on time.
Right. I know.
Yeah,
And that's gonna be a fight, right? Gotta
yeah.
keep, that's hard.
It's hard because I do say I give countdowns. It's 8 o'clock. You need to start getting your shower. Do you have your clothes ready? We do all those things just to make it easy in the morning, and he still drags out the time.
So there's one suggestion in this simplicity parenting, and I will read more. It's kind of a new discovery for me, this book is kind of reverse psychology, that you add a chore in either in the morning right before they leave, because in the morning the child really doesn't want to leave the comfort of home. It's really nice and cozy and warm and might be raining outside, but the same thing about going to bed. They're enjoying relaxing and it's the evening, but if you put a chore in there, they're happy to cut that chore halfway and go to bed, or cut the chore, skip the chore and go get in the car. I don't know. You'll have to tell me, Rachel, if
I
that works.
actually do that. I actually do, and it does work.
Wow.
Yeah. As I say, oh, well, you didn't do this. And then he goes, oh, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, you thought of it ahead. That's great. Um, just know that you're going to soon be in my situation where they're not here anymore. And those little moments, whether they be in the morning or the afternoon, are gold. So I hope that today's discussion has helped you come up with some ideas and think through what your game plan is going to be. It's still the first 6 weeks of school. You have plenty of time to get into some rhythms that are going to help your child and yourself thrive.
Absolutely. And as we kind of close out, because we want to make sure that we're always giving you some good resources and things for you to keep working on. There's Justin Whitmore Early, of course, Becky's favorite, Dr. Becky, we mentioned a bunch of times tonight. Becky is available for one-on-one family consultations. You've got so much wisdom there. Absolutely give her a call or email her. And then I do some parenting workshops with schools, and I also offer positive discipline parenting workshops just off the cuff for parents. And so I think there's, obviously a ton of places that you can go for more resources and help. One last little thing, because both my parents are lawyers. We are not doctors, but we do have amazing experience as educators and as mothers and grandmother. But if you need a doctor, please go take your child to one. We highly support that.
And invite your friends. We're really hoping to establish a community. I love connecting with you guys the little bit that I can. So thanks for coming, and we'll see you next week for Boundaries.